Hey everybody, I'm Jordan.
I am Shane. Okay, so this is the hidden features. Talked about this last night. It's probably not yesterday. It's probably not the best term for it. We're looking at the cameras.
We're looking at, I guess, more of the underused
there you go,
features.
Yeah, these are the features that you may not know exist. Even there are people, once again, there in our office that are like, oh, didn't know we could do that. We've all been there. So we're just going to kind of highlight a few of these. No, there's not really, we're not going to show you some of the, any Easter eggs that may or may not exist, because that, in fact, would destroy any reason for having that. Hey, let's go ahead and talk about all of our undocumented features. Anyway, but we've gotten enough tickets and enough questions. Like, you know what? I don't think that this feature is well known enough. And a lot of these are features that were added in the last year or two, but they were always like the third or fourth most popular feature or something. And the big feature got all the airplay. So let's go ahead and some of these are actually going to be existing from the very first release. Hey, you want to start?
Absolutely.
All right, let's do it.
All right. So this first feature is something I was shown almost 2 years ago, and it's still probably my favorite thing that I've seen.
This is one that was there in the very first release. I promise you.
So if you have a target list, you can just drag and drop it onto the package or vice versa, and it'll automatically open the deploy once window for you.
Now, a target list themselves, they used to be, especially for those of you who have a deploy but not inventory, target lists are quite popular. But once you get inventory, they seem to go bye-bye. And a lot of you buy inventory and deploy at the same time. And, target lists are really helpful when you have a group of computers based off whatever logic, whether it's part of a department or all the computers that have a certain attribute, like all the computers with iTunes or something. Target list is just, I have these computers and I always want to deploy something to them. It's just basically saving time by clumping them together. But people would do it and then go through all the steps to deploy instead of dragging and dropping.
Yeah, this one's static, so it just has the 4 computers, but you can actually link target lists to the collection, and they'll update with the.
Hurry and create. Let's hurry and just create a target list.
All right, just new target list up on the top there. Test because I'm clever.
So this time you're not going to choose the computers. You're going to link to. Let's link to an Active Directory container.
Yeah, so just click on that, and then anything, the membership that modifies in any of these will automatically update it on the target list.
So if you have an OU that contains all the new computers, they all are going to end up going into this OU initially or something. You could have a target list that just points to that OU, and then you can just drag and drop either a package on top of that target list or the target list on top of a package.
Yep. Or even if you had software that was out of date, you could set it to an inventory collection where as it goes out of date, just drag that over there and all the machines that are out of date will update for you.
Yeah, I like that. All right. What's the next one, man?
Well, I should look at my sheet instead of yours.
He's so used to being over here. He leans over like he's cheating off of the kid next to him.
I just figured you had the answer sheet.
Dude, if you're cheating off on me, we're in a bad way. All right, so you're selecting multiple deployments.
Yeah, so the other one, if you have multiple deployments, you want to see how it works. Like if you send 4 or 5 different ones and you want to see the results, you can just select multiple, and down the bottom here will give you all of the results.
People obviously will select one deployment and they'll see the targets related to that one. But if you do select multiple, we'll just combine them. And you see there is a deployment ID. Excuse me, now I'm going to go off your cheat sheet. Little deployment ID column there. You can see there's different deployment IDs. And while we're at it, let's show people how to add or remove columns from any of these grids.
There's a little button right there in the upper left you can click on, and we'll bring all those. So we have all matted, but you can remove or reorder to how you would like with just the up arrow or the. If you want to remove targets, that seems like a really bad one.
That's probably the one you don't want
to not move that right back up to 2.
And removing a column is actually fairly easy as well. You can remove it from that window, but you can also just highlight the actual column and just drag it up.
Oh, that's
and then let go, and it's gone. It's now a hidden column.
And I did targets again.
You just
I'm a quick learner.
He works here.
find quick.
Yeah, there's also just right-click and you can edit the columns from there.
All right. Now, so that's selecting the multiple deployments, and it's a quick way to grab just all the targets there at once. Let's do that again. We're gonna jump forward. Now we can see there's like Win10 computer 1. What if I want to go to that computer? That might be. Scroll up. We may have deleted that one actually. Let's go to another one. This one failed, so let's open that one.
Right.
Do we have? Let's see all deployments. Yep. Boy, we're going to a lot of old stuff here. This is back in the Moskowitz days. Right here. This is where you can right-click on a computer, and actually, if you have inventory, there's a little open in PDQ inventory, and then it will just do that. It will open up inventory if it's not running yet. If that computer exists, and there it is right there, and you're opening Bird Person. So you can, if you have inventory and that computer exists in inventory, you can just do a one-stop shop. This really helps on those computers that have failed, and you're trying to do some troubleshooting. Just saves you a couple of steps. Right-click on that, and go right to open in PDQ inventory. Now, scan profiles. We added a feature recently to be able. You've always been able to schedule your inventory scans. So we're going to hop over to PDQ inventory. But there are a lot of requests that we finally fulfilled, where they say, I would like to schedule a scan, but only the schedules themselves, so for this scan profile, will only kick off to these collections, computers in these collections. Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of you are familiar with scheduling scan profiles, but did you know you can target those schedules to specific collections? Let's go ahead and go to our options and scan profiles. So our standard out of the gate, it is the default scan profile. If you just double click on that real quick, and this one will have all of these scanners that you see, Active Directory, applications, environment variables, etc.
Kind of all the things we figure people need the most.
Yeah, we don't have any of the custom ones like WMI or files or registry. You can add them, but if you look at the triggers. We have a trigger that basically all computers will get this if it hasn't had this scan profile scanned in 7 days, we're going to initiate a scan automatically. Mm-hmm. That way we know that we're at least a week up to date. But let's go ahead and change that. Go to collections. There's a new tab there. And just link that to some collections. Let's say we only want to run this standard scan profile if it's older than 7 days for computers that are Windows 10.
Okay, so we got...
Just any Windows 10.
Yeah, Windows 10.
So that means that this particular trigger will only kick off to machines that are Windows 10. Now you can still scan this profile on the fly to any computer you want or any collection you want. It's just when that trigger kicks off, those are the collections that it will go to. And you can link to multiple collections. Go ahead and delete that. Anything you want to add to that one there?
No, it's one that's fantastic to use if you have a lot of custom scans. Mm-hmm. If you're using kind of our default, then I think
the default is probably a poor choice there. But you'll have like a file scanner where you're just looking for maybe CAD drawings or something, and you only want to throw those out to machines that have AutoCAD. That's a great one. Yep. Just schedule that to go out to those machines in those collections. The collections being AutoCAD machines.
All right, looks like Jason has.
Yeah, one thing I also show customers a lot is you can right-click on those scan profiles and actually duplicate them, and then edit them and have separate ones for separate collections.
Let's show that. That's a good point. Way to riff there, young man. You can read.
I can. I made it.
Ish. So here he just duplicated standard. Maybe call it substandard. More standard, and then lose like disks or something like that. More standard or ist. And here, this one will run. This one will now go back to triggers. Notice it does when you duplicate it. It keeps those triggers. All right.
But it does not change the default ones. So if you just use the F6 to auto scan, it's still going to use the.
And what there's two parts of default that are important to know about. Number one, let's change default to applications. Applications scan profile does not have. There's a button right there called Set Default.
I'm used to the context menus.
Way to go. Now you can see applications as the default. Here's the two things about default. Number one, you cannot delete the default scan profile. So I should say three things because I just added that one. Number two, when a computer first comes into the environment, when it first comes into inventory, it will get whatever profile is set as the default. That scan profile will be initiated. It will attempt to scan that, and then it will attempt to scan any of the other scan profiles that have a last scan date, or last, that hasn't been scanned in 7 days or 30 days. It will pass all of those tests because it's never been scanned. It will then kick those off. But the default will always be kicked off, even if it doesn't have a trigger.
Okay.
And then the third part, there is a shortcut to scanning, and that is I can highlight Guinness and just hit the F6 button. Go ahead and do that. By hitting F6, that will initiate the default scan profile. Otherwise, you'll need to, if you don't want to do this, if you don't want to scan the profile, you can right click and go to Scan Computers and choose your profile, or you can do it from the drop down there. All right, cool. So there's another one for CPU utilization and animation. What is that? It's the animation tuning.
Yeah, so this is the ability just basically to remove the animations that we have on the products. It's just if it's running a bit slower, you want to just not have those. There's no built-in menu option for it. You actually have to make a registry key.
So he's gonna go to regedit.
All right, and then it is just local machine software admin arsenal, and then the product you're working on.
Okay.
And then under settings, you want to build a new key called animation. And this one. So within the disable animation, a 0 means animations are still on, 1 turns them off.
Okay.
You can also create a value for frame rate if you want to change that from anywhere from 0 to 60.
And worth noting that it's a D word, a reg D word, which is a 32-bit. Don't use the 64. You'll get different results. Trust me. Just a regular D word, and it's true or false.
Yep.
On that one.
And then you do have to restart the application after you add the key.
So how do you restart the application? I mean, there's closing the console, but what if you need to restart the background service? What's something you can do?
Just right there in our options, there is a background service thing, and then just hit restart.
When you restart the background service, it will obviously restart that service, but it will also close. Do it. Let's go ahead and do it.
Okay.
It'll actually close and open the console again. So this is a way to do a kind of a full restart of that application.
Now, if you close and open, but the service is still running, you're not gonna. This guarantees you'll get what you're looking for.
Yeah. That way, there are certain sequences that are kicked off when that background service is started up, and sometimes you just need to do that.
Yep.
And making certain changes, there are some values that are only read when the background service first starts. Obviously, a reboot of the computer is another way of doing that, but here, just stop and restart the service.
All right. Yeah.
All right. So, do you know how to do the? Notice these. Do you know how to do the icons?
Yep.
Okay. Good. Go to the environment variables. So notice these icons up here. Let's go ahead and do a quick draw.
Okay.
Over here.
Is that just the Windows
Yeah.
key?
So go ahead and do that. Do that. Go ahead. These right here. These icons right now they're set to large, but the icons are. The size of the icons is automatic based off of the resolution of your computer. So there's 3 settings. There's small, where they're very small and there's no label. Then there's the medium, where there's the large icons with no labels, and then there's the large, which is the label as well as. Let's say that you have that you're running this on a remote desktop and it's running it on a server that doesn't have the resolution that you need to get the big icons, but you want those big icons. You can create an environment variable. The variable can be user or it can be machine level. Yep. So let's go ahead and create one.
Now think about not remembering the name of the variable name and what it's supposed to be.
I think it's PDQ toolbar icons. Is it an underscore? Yeah, it's PDQ underscore toolbar icons.
Oh, there's already one in there. Oh,
No, there it is.
Oh,
Yeah. So the options are, it says text, it's small, medium, and large.
Yes, instead of building a new one. If we
So let's go ahead and change that to medium. Say OK. Close it. Let's close that console and open that console back up. And now we should see those icons should be the large ones
without text.
without text. This is one of the few hidden features that we're talking about. We just didn't see the. We really haven't had too much of in the way of complaints. I want to have this icon size, so it just didn't make sense for us to waste valuable real estate and preferences to do this. But notice there it is without. Yep, without the labels. All right, let's go ahead and change that back to the large because that's what I would prefer. Do we have any questions we want to throw down?
Dear Shane and Jordan, I use the keyboard shortcut to bring up the preferences menu, but is there a shortcut to run an AD sync? Sincerely, John, this is my happy face, D.
I don't think so. You can always, if we have them mapped, go ahead and go to options. If we have them mapped here, you'll see that there's going to be a keyboard icon, a keyboard shortcut for it. But if inside of preferences, I don't think that there is, because it's something that's instantiated from within. You can go to Active Directory.
Yeah, I don't believe we have.
So there's this. You can do the sync now. No, I don't. There's not.
If we do have it, I haven't tested it.
Colby's right now. Colby's going. I actually found a way to do that, but I'm not sure if I should mention.
I don't want to tell anyone.
I don't want to get in trouble. No, sorry, there isn't. But we got to look into. Somebody take a note. Just the ability to map. Like you can map keyboard shortcuts to tools when you create a custom tool, or just a tool. You can say, hey, I want this keyboard shortcut to do this. Maybe we should take a peek at that. I don't know.
Yeah, or something.
I know. I for one love the keyboard shortcuts, but I've just always kind of taken that as read.
Colby's saying auto hotkey.
Auto hotkey. Auto hotkey. You can do anything you want at that point. All right. Let's see. What do we got? So scheduling inside a deployment window. You ready for that one?
So is this from within the deploy once?
This was Jason really wanted to mention this. Jason, why don't you pipe up and tell us what you're talking about?
Yeah,
or if you were just smoking crack again.
I was. This is more when you're scheduling, looking at the options tab.
Oh yeah, these are the kind of people will set a schedule and they might say, I want to do this once a week on Tuesdays at 10 p.m. But there's so many different parameters to that you can do. So here we've got this. Go ahead and center that a little bit.
Yeah, so it's that last option right there.
Oh yeah, so the stop when that way if you have a maintenance window that you have every window, like something has to stop by midnight if your maintenance window, that you can make sure your deployments don't kick off at that point.
Yes, we don't have a native window for saying, hey, only deploy all deployments between these hours, also known as maintenance window. But you can still get what you want. Here we're going to let's say we schedule a reboot to happen on Saturdays. Go ahead and do it. Let's see. Let's create a package real quick that only does a reboot. I'm going to put Jordan through the ringer here.
I was working on the schedule. She said only on Saturdays. Do you care about time?
Well, yeah. In the real world, I care very much about time. On this domain, I couldn't care less.
Just everything with media player reboots.
All right.
Oh, I can't apparently select by. I didn't link. I did choose
link,
targets.
did you?
Nope, I did not link. We just talked about Link and how awesome it was, and I didn't.
Is there a demotion that we can do on air? That's okay. You're fine. All right, so here you're going to do a reboot on Saturday night, but you don't want this to just stay out there. Maybe you've got retry queues that are enabled by default, and it goes for 72 hours, and somebody comes and boots up their computer that was scheduled for a reboot on Saturday, and it's booted up on Monday, and then that deployment kicks off because it's in the retry queue. A way you can get around that is just to actually have that schedule will stop deploying, like they say, within 2 hours. Now, what does that mean? If a deployment, let's go from something like a reboot, it's a very simple, but to a more complex package, like I mentioned AutoCAD, a lot of steps, a lot of time. You say deploy AutoCAD, but only do it within this 2 hour window. And there are computers that haven't finished yet. That 2 hour window is met. Now it's been 120 minutes. If there's a computer where that package has started, and you can see in the console it's on step 4 of 8, it's not going to cancel that. If it's already started, it's going to go on. Where it will stop are any targets that are in the queued state, meaning that they haven't kicked off yet. And we do limit the number of concurrent deployments. So you say I want to deploy AutoCAD to 300 machines. Let's go to preferences. Let's go to deployments. Actually, let's go to performance. I'm sorry. And under performance, notice, do the highlight there. We've got concurrent targets per deployment. So you've got, by default, it's set to 8. That means that in one deployment, you deploy to 300 computers. It's going to grab 8 of those, and it's not going to throw down to any other ones until one of those or one or more free up. So one finishes, a new slot is opened of that 8, and it will pick up. So you could easily have computers that are still in the queued status. Those 300 computers, 8 start, 292 are queued. And it just moves on down. Now you can increase that. I've seen people go with outlandish numbers. Be careful, you're still limited to resources on your server.
Know your environment,
your network.
For what you're going to set it to.
Yeah, and the bottom one, total concurrent, that is, maybe you've got 6 deployments that have been kicked off, going out to 1,000 computers. Those 6 deployments will each grab 8, but it will not surpass 32 total.
That's right.
So that means that all 6 could not have 8, because that would surpass that, so it will stop off at 32.
Okay.
All right? Do we have any other questions before we start the next one?
Dear Shane and Jordan, in regards to the Reboot Required collection within inventory, is there a quick way to determine why a machine would be placed there? For example, I have a Windows 2012 server that appears in this collection every day, even though I reboot it once a day. Thank you, Matt R.
Yes. We don't show the reasons because the reasons can be extremely verbose. There's actually 3 areas in the registry that we look for. Down in the bowels of the registry. When you've all seen this when you install an application and it says, hey, a reboot's going to be needed. That's because there was a file or files that were locked that it needed to replace as part of that update, and since it couldn't get a hold of those to replace them, what it does is it puts an entry in the registry in one of 3 locations to say, when the computer reboots, rename this file to this one, so that it can load up with the new files. We don't list those reasons because, once again, you could have a lot of entries in there. What you're probably seeing, and we've had this happen, there are some applications or services that will keep a value in there even though it's honestly not valid. What we'd like you to do, reach out to support, Matt, and tell us. We'll tell you which keys to look at, and we'll find out what value that is, and then we can put an exclusion in subsequent versions to say, if you see this, don't consider that a reboot is needed. We've done that before with certain printer drivers that keep on popping up, Twain drivers sometimes. What do you got, Jason?
I just linked the KB that we have on what flags we look for that too.
Oh, thank you. Is that in the bonus content?
No, I just put it in the chat.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So, Matt, check that out. But yeah, it really does sound like an exemption in this case of this Windows 2012 server should probably happen if it's always there. All right. Let's do, I would like the library, the collection library. You've all probably used the package library. We have a collection library. These are collections that we keep up to date. Really expand applications real quick. Notice there's Chrome. You can see these are computers that have the latest version of Chrome. You can see right here we try to, where appropriate, put the versions that we're looking for. It's actually 2 versions of Chrome that constitute the latest. And you can see these are all the computers that have Chrome that match one of these 2 versions. Go ahead and clear that. Let's say that there are applications here that you just don't want to use. Like maybe you use Chrome and you don't use Firefox, or you don't care about IE. Here's how you can hide those collections. Notice he's going to go to
View, and then just right there, there's a hide library collection.
And that will literally hide that. Now it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. Go to the collection library, the main node, and you can see that applications is kind of grayed out. If you can see that, expand that.
Expand it. Yeah. So the icon's grayed out, but the text is not. Mm-hmm. If there's only some things hidden,
sure.
If everything's hidden, both will be grayed out.
Okay. Expand to internet browsers. And then you can see Internet Explorer. That's all. Now you can also go to the Hidden tab. Now once again, we've selected the collection library node, and you can see those that are hidden. Now, what if I want to not unhide it, but temporarily show the hidden ones?
So there is a setting.
Mm-hmm. Just right-click on that. He's going to right-click on that, go down to View, and say Display the hidden library collections. You'll still see them grayed out. But you'll at least see them. Now, what if you want to unhide that totally? You can just say, "This is it." He's doing a right click.
Right click, yeah. And I have to go down to the one I actually hit. If I do the parent one, then it'll just give me the option to hide everything.
Go down to Internet Explorer and uncheck that hide library collections, and then it's no longer hidden. So it's a way to get those kind of out of sight, out of mind. Some caveats there. 1 second, Jason. If you do hide a collection, we still do update internally the members of that collection. It just gets a much lower priority. Mm-hmm. And that way when you unhide it or you view it, you're still seeing the up-to-date collections. It's just, it's refreshed in the background at a lower priority. What do you got, Jason?
We also added that when you use the filter and you have a hidden collection, you can actually have a little option there to show the hidden. So if you hide a collection...
He's hiding one right now.
Okay. And then type in Internet Explorer in the filter. You have a little checkbox there to show hidden results.
Down here in the bottom, there's that little show hidden.
But it's showing it because you've still got the show hidden set up before.
Yeah, I'd never unchecked that one.
And this is hiding collections is only available in the collection library. It's not available for collections that you've created. I know that there's been a few requests for that, but we haven't fulfilled that one yet. Cool. Thanks. Let's boy, there's so many things to go through. Let's look at the using LAPS credentials. I would like that one. A lot of you have been using LAPS. This is something that's definitely a service that Microsoft highly recommends. It's where you want to use the local administrator account for your deployments or whatever, but you don't set that password across the same password that can, pretty soon that gets out in the wild and half your users know what that is. LAPS is a way to just have Active Directory. This machine has to be in Active Directory. It basically dynamically changes that password. You don't know what it is, but there's a service that you can use called LAPS. We do integrate with LAPS, so go ahead.
And one nice thing with LAPS is if you set for a collection or specific computer to use the LAPS credentials, with the deployment you can say use inventory credentials, and then you can deploy with LAPS as well.
Mm-hmm. And what he's talking about there, by the way, hitting add LAPS, you would add your information from LAPS. We do have a whole series of videos and webcasts on this. What he's talking about, let's say go ahead and deploy 7-zip 1805. In your deployments, there's a checkbox, use PDQ inventory scan user. That way you don't, if you've got all the different users set on inventory for different computers, you don't have to specify the credentials here as he credentials partially. This would use the Quintana account for all the targets here. But if you've got targets that all have different scan users, by just checking that use PDQ, the PDQ inventory scan credentials, it will try those first. That way you could ostensibly deploy in one deployment to computers that require different credentials. And really quick, if you want to change the scan user in PDQ inventory, You can do that a number of ways. One of those is right click and say select scan user, and then you can choose all the different, we've only got one set up, but you can choose all the different credentials you've set up. Okay. Yeah, let's go to another question. And then we've got Jason that wants to pipe in.
Dear Shane and Jordan, are there plans to make a blog post or forum entry that highlights these features so that we can reference them later? Thanks, Mary M.
Mary, we'd appreciate it if you'd stop throwing logic into these. Be highly, highly appreciated. That's a great idea. Mary, who would you like to write that? Jordan it is. Thank you very much for that. Jordan just got tasked.
She took a request.
Thanks for helping me reach my KPIs.
He just peed again.
The floor is no longer lava.
Every time I'm given a task, they're this close to realizing I'm as illiterate as Charlie.
I was saying,
It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
I was saying before we got online here is I was told recently I can no longer coast on my looks, but I have to contribute, which I don't know what that means, but I'm going to look into
The
it.
fact that we didn't disabuse you of that looks notion right away is staggering. What do you got,
You
Jason?
can't.
I was just going to say on the credentials, if you're using Active Directory Sync, you can actually set the credentials that you're going to use it with that container, and it'll bring those in with that set of credentials.
Okay. Really, you know what we got? We don't have a lot of time left. I want to hit do the basic filter real quick. So we've got this. You all see this basic, and this works in both. Anytime you have these little filters in deploy or inventory, this works. Here we're saying look for anything that has the word Rick in there. Any computer that has Rick. Not just in the name, any of these columns that you see, if they happen to have Rick in them, that would show up. Now let's do an advanced search.
Just Control F.
So you hit Control F, and then you'll notice. Go ahead and highlight that real quick, in case they didn't see that. This one takes a little bit more logic, as opposed to just typing in Rick. Let's throw a few things. Like let's do Guinness. Space.
2 N's.
Ooh, yeah. Spell it correctly.
It's very important.
And then Rick. So when you have a space, it's an or. Basically, show anything that has the word Guinness or Rick. We actually have another video on this somewhere, or we did a webcast where you can actually specify column names like name : this. You can really get down. We don't have time to go into all of these, but play with that Control F when you're looking at that. Go ahead and close, and you'll be able to get your searches down.
That'll help you with when you're making your own collections. When you're trying to fine tune, using that will help you filter what you're looking for specifically.
Right. What if there's a computer you don't want to scan? Maybe you've got some Linux computers that are in Active Directory. They're in here, and they're always attempting a scan, and they always fail. You want them in inventory, but you just don't want them scanned. What can you do?
So if you right-click on the name of the computer you want, it's just right down there. There's an allow scan.
Just uncheck
You
that.
can just uncheck that.
So that means that the inventory that we have will stay. You can open it up, and there's certain fields now that you can just edit on the fly. This works for things like if you have added phones, or you've added printers, anything in here that you've done from an IP scan, but we can't scan because they don't have Windows. You can still do inventory and edit certain things, like maybe the OS is a SNOS for a phone or something like that. You can modify that, but when you try to scan it, it won't scan. It won't waste a queue, a slot in that queue, and just for something that's going to fail. So just disallow scans. Maybe there's some servers that you just don't want scanned all the time. Disallow them, and then when you do want to scan them, enable them and scan at that point, and then disable them again. Does that sound right?
Absolutely.
Do we have any more questions, JJ? Okay, one more question.
Dear Shane and Jordan, are there fun Easter eggs hidden through PDQ, like mousing over the Reboot Required status? Thanks, Patrick H.
There may be. Yeah,
One for a win.
we generally, every now and then somebody will have an idea for an Easter egg. There are some hidden features, mostly for our testing purposes here, so that we can quickly, emulate a certain condition. But those aren't published, and they do require a lot. Now people are just going to start doing the Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds and looking for LSD anywhere they can.
But we're about to get a lot more break
little
fix
bit more.
requests to support.
Yeah, I know. Generally, when I see somebody here that's it doesn't here internally that does an alcohol fueled. Hey, let's put an Easter egg in there. I usually say no, no. This is serious stuff. Now, where's my whiskey? Is there anything else? We didn't hit every single one of these, but we're kind of low on time.
We certainly can do a part 2 to this if you're interested.
All right.
Absolutely.
Maybe we can gauge our listening audience, see if they're privy to it.
Rock on, everybody. Hey, so let's go ahead and wrap it up. Is that cool? All right. Thank you very much for taking the driver's seat there, Jordan.
Absolutely.
And next week, Jason, who's been doing our Phone a Friend, is going to be talking about getting ready for summer. Whether you're in a school or just a regular company where you're going to have a lot of people that start taking their summer vacations, there's some things you can do to really get a hold of your environment, take advantage of that time. Jason's going to kind of walk through some of that, and then we'll most assuredly have a back to school, the end of summer webcast on here's some things that you probably may have let slip through the cracks. So that's some coming attractions, rated PG-13. Being a carrot isn't always cracked up to be. Little South Park throw.
Rob Schneider discovers the
Rob
being a
Schneider.
stapler.
All right, everybody. We'll talk to you later. I'm Shane.
I'm Jordan.
Thanks for joining our webcast today. Congratulations, John D. and Matt R., winners of PDQ swag. Just send us your info at webcast@pdq.com. If you have any further questions, don't hesitate to reach out to our support staff. That's why we have them. They're here to help. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you back here next week.